Hey everybody, this is Chris from Prepared Mind 101. Basically what Will wants me to do is kind of give you some other options for those of you that can't wear wool or for whatever reason don't want to wear wool. Maybe you want to be more tactical like me. But the biggest thing that I would suggest is just going with the extreme cold weather clothing system and getting the good stuff. Now, right here I have the current issue U.S. Marine Corps Gore-Tex Parka. So this doesn't have a lot of insulative value. This is just your outer shell. It is water resistant. It breaks the wind. It does have a hood hidden in the collar. Right now I don't have the entire system on. I've got kind of like a mix and match. If you want to do it right, I would say make sure you get the really good heavyweight extreme cold weather clothing system base layer. I'm going to pull this down so you can hear me. Got a lot of stuff around my neck. That makes so much difference that I can't even describe it. Now, then the second layer is the Polartec 300 Fleece inner jacket. And then you'd have your base layer. Right now I just have like some regular polypropylene stuff. Pull this off here. I also have this wool, like Will called it a buff. I forget exactly what they called this thing. It was a Swedish military wool tube bandana. It's really long. You can double it over, make it into a hat, make it into a scarf. It's very multi-purpose.
Yeah, I really like that thing. You know, sewing up one side of that, you could carry snow in that, melt it for water. There's tons of options with that thing. I really like that.
Now, for a mask, I've tried out a couple of these recently. I've tried out the new Under Armour IR ones. This is like a last year's model Columbia Omni Heat hood. This one has a lot more reflective. It's not an insulative value. It's reflecting your body heat back to you. So it's working in a slightly different way. Is it as good as wool altogether? I would have to say, when it comes to actually being warm, maybe not being fashionable, depending on what style you go with, but actually being warm, Will's system is superior to this. You can be out longer for longer periods of time, and he's got a lot more layers on right now than I do. But then again, I'm freaking 50 feet from my house, so I'm kind of moving in and out, getting the different things. And I'm also wearing the Muck Boots like Will is, except mine are the Arctic Sports. The difference being is mine don't go up as high. So they're about $30 less expensive, but you gotta watch it if you're gonna be crossing any water or anything like that. Now, one other new thing that I've got that I'm trying out today, I picked these up from Sam's Surplus Sales. You can see here, these are the Polartec 200 fleece pants. So I'm wearing these underneath some of my older pants that I had when I was a little bit heavier. So I'll tell you what, my legs have never been warmer. So I've got my base layer, then I've got these Polartec 200 pants, then I've got my outer layer. And I've got a liner sock, a thin wool sock, and then a heavy wool sock, plus the Arctic Muck Boots. So I'm pretty warm there. Now, ideally, if I was going to be out here, like if we were actually out in the field doing stuff and not just at my place doing videos, I would be wearing a little bit more up top. I would have one of the extreme cold weather clothing system base layers, like the heavyweight ones, plus this, plus my jacket, and then using like the wool around, at least around my neck, and then my, all right, took it off, didn't I? Then my mask, and then something up top, because you really got to pay close attention to the top of your head and your neck, as far as that's where a lot of your heat is escaping. And then also just keeping your core warm, because as soon as you start losing your core body temperature, that's when your extremities start going cold faster, because your body's pulling all that blood away from the parts that it's willing to sacrifice in order to keep your core warm. So that's usually a good sign when you start, you know, one of two things. I mean, your finger's going to get cold if you're not wearing the right gloves anyway, but if you start getting cold around the hands and the feet and up your arms, then you got to build a fire, do something, warm yourself up real quick. Now these gloves, I've been looking for the perfect winter gloves, and I'm coming to the conclusion that the perfect winter gloves are going to be what Will just showed you. Multiple layers of wool. Because everything that I've tried so far, fancy stuff, they're okay for short periods of time. Like these are called 0 degrees Celsius. They're kind of like a mid-weight neoprene type glove. And they're okay as long as I keep my hands moving, and every once in a while I can warm them up. But long period of time, no, it ain't gonna cut it. So actually on my list of things to get in the very, very near future is basically what Will just showed you. The fingerless wool gloves, the mittens, and then the overlayer. And then I have this N4B Air Force pilot gloves, or extreme Arctic weather. I forget what the actual nomenclature of it is, but I mean, that's what you got to do if you want to stay warm. You got to have a lot of layers, and when it comes to insulative value, wool is king. But at the same time, if you have the extreme cold weather clothing system the way it is intended, meaning you've got all the different parts, all the different layers, then this is going to keep you warm for a really long time too. Because I could say what I'm wearing right now is not very thick. It's not very heavy, and I don't feel like I'm walking around in like some big freaking ski jacket. I feel like I'm wearing like a light, maybe fall coat. You
have mobility.
Yeah, I have a lot of mobility, and I can work and do stuff, but I'm still warm. So this stuff works really, really good. Now the Polartec 300 fleece, you can find those certain surplus stores. I can't give you an exact one, but I've been told, people say, well, they got them in my town for like 20 bucks or 15 bucks or whatever used. I got mine new on Amazon, about $40, $45. Price fluctuates. They've got the zipper that match up to this part on here, so if you need to ventilate or scratch your armpit or whatever, both the inner layer and the outer layer has that zipper. But it really, when you put one of those Polartec fleece jackets on, you're like, yeah, I can really tell the difference between this and a fleece jacket that I got at Walmart, which is pretty much worthless. So if you're gonna be outside in the cold for long periods of time, spend the money, get the right gear, or don't go out at all, or don't go out without a really good safety net, base camp, easy to light fire, you know, whatever, because you go out with the wrong. If you watch the Prepared Mind 101 videos from way at the beginning when I started last winter, and I didn't have a lot of the good cold weather gear that I got now. Last year was the first, the 2011, early 2012 winter was the first of the new Ohio winters where it got really stupid cold. In most of my videos, I'm like, every other word is me bitching about the cold. So
people up in the boreal forest are calling you a wussy right now.
Yeah.
It's like 30 below right there.
I'm not in the frickin' boreal forest, okay? I'm in frickin' Columbus, Ohio, so more power to you. But, I mean, that was just me demonstrating that here I was, you know, I had a lot of layers on, but they weren't the right layers. So you go thinking, oh, I've got 3-4 layers on, but if it's not the right material, it doesn't mean jack. I mean, I had one of those sport Columbia-looking coats, wind resistant and all that, and, you know, fleece, but it just wasn't good quality stuff. It wasn't like this. And I was wearing more layers. It was bulkier than this, but I wasn't as warm as I am now. So those are your options. If you're really, really serious bushcrafty guy, you're going to be out in the woods for like a couple days or whatnot, it's best to go like Will, what he's wearing. If you're going out short term, or urban scenario or whatever, you just like this style of clothing better, you know, go with good quality U.S. military extreme cold weather clothing system stuff, like stuff that actually gets issued to the troops, not knockoff stuff by Rothko or something like that. So that's all I got on that, on the subject of clothing. And one other thing, like Will said about having the spare socks and all that, I have in my kit, I've got one of the 30, I want to say it's 36 liter dry bags from Walmart. I always keep, I call it my clothing bug out bag. It's got you can get 5 days of clothes in that thing, and I change it depending on the season. So I have in my, no further than my car, several extra pairs of wool socks, several extra base layers, extra pants, everything. So if something happens, emergency or whatever, I need to just change clothes or I need to add layers, it's always there. So at the very minimum, I feel if you always, your car is always going to be close to where you're at, unless you're up in the boreal forest. So you still laughing? If you had to throw that at me, it's like, okay, come on, I'm not one of those guys. Those guys got
Yeah, I checked out the
major nuts.
I checked out the Hay River today because I'm gonna be heading up there probably here in a couple months. Either that or over by Edmonton, and it was 30 below.
Yeah, if I was going up there, I would have to go shopping, basically. Definitely. And that's really about all I got. I mean, for what I've got in Ohio cold winter, where it's like 20 to maybe 10 below, what I've got's pretty good. If you're gonna go any colder than that, then you gotta go with this kind of stuff that Will described. So other than that, I'm starting to rambling. So you got anything else you want to throw in?
Yeah, I'm gonna close.
Okay, so
all right.